On March 22, 1999, in Elephant Butte, New Mexico, the 911 dispatch center received multiple emergency calls about a naked woman wearing a metal collar, frantically running into the street, trying to stop cars for help. When police arrived at the scene, the terrified woman ran toward them, desperately pleading for help. She claimed to have just endured 3 days of hell in a place called the Toy Box, a horrifying torture chamber. Based on her testimony, the police confirmed that the woman was Cynthia Vigil, 22, one of the victims who had fallen into the hands of the notorious Toy Box killer. For 3 days of captivity, she endured brutal torture, being chained, turned into a slave, and sexually assaulted. It might seem like a scene straight out of a horror movie, but this story is entirely real, happening right in the United States in 1999. The Toy Box Killer case will reveal gruesome secrets and terrifying truths you've never heard before. Hit like and subscribe to our channel to uncover the whole truth. On March 19, 1999, Cynthia Vigil, 22, was parked in Albuquerque, New Mexico, when a man claiming to be an undercover cop approached her, stating she was under arrest for soliciting prostitution. The man who posed as an undercover cop was David Parker Ray. He handcuffed Cynthia Vigil and took her to a soundproof RV, which he called the Toy Box. At that moment, a woman suddenly emerged from behind a curtain in the bathroom and attacked Cynthia with a stun gun. Ray chained Cynthia to a table, then returned to the driver's seat and started driving. On the way, Cynthia kept trying to dismantle the cabinet handle she was cuffed to. She lowered herself and thought, "When the vehicle slows down enough, I will run for the door." However, the vehicle suddenly stopped abruptly, causing Cynthia to fall to the floor, revealing that she had successfully freed herself. David Parker Ray and the woman accompanying him locked Cynthia's legs with chains, then wrapped duct tape around her face from her chin to the top of her head. After hours of driving, the vehicle began to slow down before coming to a complete stop. Cynthia was dragged out of the RV at gunpoint. Outside, she saw several other RVs surrounding the area. In broad daylight, Cynthia hoped someone would see her in handcuffs, completely helpless with a gun pointed at her. But that hope quickly vanished. When taken inside, she was forced to sit on a bed. They placed a metal collar around her neck, locked it with a padlock, and secured it to the wall. Then, David Parker Ray played a recording of his own voice to intimidate, assert dominance, instill fear, and psychologically control Cynthia. For the next 3 days, he tortured and abused her with the assistance of his accomplice girlfriend, Cindy Hendy. Every night, the two captors slept on the floor beside her, and she constantly overheard them discussing their horrifying criminal plans. They used various brutal torture methods, including whips, electric shocks, and medical instruments. Ray ordered Cynthia to call him Master and the woman accompanying him Mistress, forbidding her from speaking unless given permission. After passing out from the pain multiple times, Cynthia became convinced that David and Cindy intended to kill her, so she kept looking for an opportunity to escape. On the final night, Cynthia happened to overhear David and Cindy discussing a plan to kidnap a child, intending to raise and train it according to their will. At that moment, she realized they had already selected their next target. Cynthia knew she had to escape to prevent them from harming anyone else. On the third day, David left the RV to go to work, leaving Cindy in charge of guarding Cynthia. While making a phone call, Cindy carelessly placed the keys near the table where Cynthia was chained. Cynthia used her foot to pull the table closer, gripping the key tightly between her toes. Just as she managed to grab the key, Cindy turned around, picked up a bedside lamp, and lunged at Cynthia. Cynthia desperately tried each key to unlock the collar from the wall, but Cindy would not let her. She grabbed a blue table lamp and repeatedly struck Cynthia. Each blow left Cynthia dazed, her vision darkening, but nothing could extinguish her unbreakable will. In a fierce struggle, Cynthia grabbed a nearby ice pick from David's collection and fought back to defend herself. As Cindy collapsed, Cynthia bolted out of the trailer in a near-naked state, with only the metal collar and chains remaining on her body. In desperation, she knocked on the door of a nearby mobile home. Realizing the severity of the situation, the homeowner reassured Cynthia, brought her inside, and quickly called the police. When the police arrived, Cynthia locked the door and barricaded herself inside the house. She couldn't trust them, as the image of her captor in a police uniform was still fresh in her memory. On March 22, 1999, just minutes after Cynthia was taken to the hospital, the two kidnappers were stopped just a block away from where she was found. They were trying to flee town in their RV. When the FBI raided David Parker Ray's house, they could not have imagined what they would find inside the white RV parked outside. The room where Cynthia was held was terrifying. Beside the RV, a specially modified Ryder truck was parked, and when the police opened it, it was as if a Pandora's box had been unleashed, revealing horrifying secrets inside. To understand the cause of David Parker Ray's horrifying crimes, investigators dug into his past, uncovering a tragic childhood and extreme ideologies that shaped his entire life. Our main character, David Parker Ray, was born in 1939 in Belen, New Mexico. As the son of a native Oregonian mechanic, David Parker Ray and his younger sister, Peggy Pearl Ray, were subjected to strict discipline from their parents. The people in the neighborhood where Ray grew up had little impression of him, a quiet, introverted boy with a seemingly gentle demeanor. But Ray's fate quickly changed when his parents divorced when he was 9 years old. His parents' marriage fell apart after years of his mother enduring physical and emotional abuse from his alcoholic father. After that, David Parker Ray moved with his grandfather to a ranch in Mountain Air, New Mexico, an event considered a major turning point in his life, leaving a profound impact on his psychology. His father occasionally visited him and gave him violent pornography magazines, which negatively influenced Ray's psyche. His parents' divorce made Ray feel abandoned, intensifying his craving for love and human connection. However, due to his lack of social skills and sometimes extreme behavior, Ray was often avoided by girls. The constant feeling of rejection, combined with deep-seated insecurity, led Ray to exhibit early signs of psychological instability. To numb his emotional pain and prolonged loneliness, David Parker Ray turned to alcohol and drugs. In his intoxicated states, distorted fantasies of control, violence, and torturing women took root in his mind, growing stronger throughout his teenage years. After reaching adulthood, David Parker Ray went through 4 marriages and had 2 children, but all of his marriages ended in divorce. Later, Ray met Cindy Hendy, 37, a state park employee in Truth or Consequences, New Mexico. At the time, she was fleeing felony theft and drug charges in Washington state. Ray and Hendy quickly bonded, maintaining a relationship centered around shared violent and deviant sexual ideologies. It is believed that Ray began his criminal activities around the mid-1950s, but they only came to light after victim Cynthia Vigil escaped. What authorities discovered shocked everyone. Inside Ray's toy box, at the center of the room, was a gynecological chair with a mirror mounted on the ceiling, forcing the victims to witness the full horror they were experiencing. Scattered on the floor were whips, chains, pulleys, straps, clamps, scalpels, saws, and many other instruments. There was also a homemade electric shock device used to torture victims. In total, Ray is believed to have spent $100,000 modifying the trailer, installing various torture devices and equipment to facilitate his perverse acts. It is said that Ray built intricate machines to imprison his victims, including a fur-lined coffin and a temporary restraint pole. He also used sophisticated locks and pulley systems to prevent victims from escaping. He frequently played recorded messages of his own voice for his victims to hear whenever they regained consciousness, manipulating and intimidating them psychologically. In his recordings, Ray stated that he would sometimes release his victims, abandoning them on the roadside in rural areas after drugging them with a heavy dose of sedatives to induce amnesia, preventing them from remembering the attack and reporting it to the police. Inside the trailer, police also found a videotape from 1996 showing a woman being held captive, abused, and tortured by Ray and his girlfriend. Another crucial piece of evidence police recovered was Ray's personal diary, where he documented in detail the victims he had kidnapped and what he had done to them. The diary contained dozens of entries, listing only dates and the number of times he had tortured each victim, without including names. In total, investigators collected over 1,000 pieces of evidence. After Ray's arrest, and the exposure of his horrifying crimes, another female victim came forward to the police. The second victim, Angelica Montano, reported that Cindy had invited her to David's home, where she was continuously assaulted and tortured for 4 days. She stated that Ray had captured her after Hendy invited her over to pick up some baking mix. When her instincts told her the duo planned to kill her, she pleaded for her life, mentioning that she had a child at home, which seemed to make Cindy hesitate. After being released, Angelica was fortunate to encounter a police officer on the road who gave her a ride. However, her story was so bizarre that the officer didn't believe her, assuming she was fabricating the entire tale and failing to file a report. The third victim, Kelly Garrett, 19, lived with her husband in a small town called Truth or Consequences, New Mexico. On July 25, 1996, Kelly disappeared after having an argument with her husband. Her husband searched the town for her but found no trace, forcing him to quickly report her missing to the police. Security camera footage provided a crucial clue. Kelly was last seen at a local bar, Blue Water Saloon, with a group of friends, including a woman named Jessie Ray. That evening, Kelly played pool at a bar with Jessie Ray, 31, the daughter of David Parker Ray. Jessie offered to drive Kelly home, but mentioned they needed to stop by her father's house first. There, Kelly was threatened at gunpoint, restrained, and drugged. She was held captive in David's house for 2 days. 3 days later, on July 28th, a park ranger found Kelly in a distressed state and took her home. She appeared intoxicated, with bruises and multiple injuries on her body. The park ranger reported that he found her wandering along the beach in a delirious state. Due to the effects of the drugs, Kelly could not clearly remember what had happened to her, so she chose to remain silent. Her husband did not believe she couldn't remember where she had been and assumed she had been unfaithful, leading him to file for divorce. Kelly said she didn't know what to tell the police, so she never contacted them. However, over time, her memories slowly returned, and she began recalling more details of what had happened. On July 5, 1997, a year after Kelly disappeared, her close friend, Marie Parker, 22, also vanished. 2 days later, Marie's mother went to the sheriff's office to report that she hadn't been able to contact her daughter for days. Police launched an investigation and discovered a lead pointing to the Blue Water Saloon. During the investigation at the scene, Kelly stated that she saw Marie leaving the bar with her ex-boyfriend, Roy Yancey, and a mutual friend, Jessie Ray. Police interrogated Jessie, and she claimed she had taken Marie home that night. Because Marie had a prior record related to drug use, police initially assumed she had run away voluntarily, leading to a lack of urgency in the investigation. However, Marie was the mother of 2 young girls, so there was no reason for her to voluntarily abandon her children. This clearly indicated that something unusual had happened. On March 20, 1999, a local resident reported to the police that they had discovered a lead about Marie. The person stated that she was last seen at a location about 150 miles from where she had disappeared. Although no bodies were found during the investigation, authorities believed that David Parker Ray might have murdered several other victims. However, with 3 brave victims stepping forward, the police gathered enough evidence to charge Ray and his accomplices with over 25 counts of kidnapping and sexual assault. Cindy Hendy agreed to cooperate with investigators by testifying against her boyfriend, David Parker Ray. According to accomplice Cindy Hendy's testimony, after the victims died, David Parker Ray dismembered their bodies and either buried them or disposed of them in Elephant Butte Lake or nearby canyons to eliminate evidence. However, despite multiple searches, authorities never found a single body. Elephant Butte Lake is 37 kilometers long, 4,800 to 6,400 meters wide, and 27 to 30 meters deep, making searches extremely difficult. From Cindy's testimony, investigators uncovered another accomplice. David had confided in her that he had forced a friend named Dennis Roy Yancey to commit a horrific act against a woman. When interrogated, Dennis admitted that David had kidnapped and tortured Marie Parker, his ex-girlfriend. Afterward, David Parker Ray pointed a gun at Dennis, forcing him to kill Marie before disposing of her body in the desert. However, even with Dennis's guidance, investigators were unable to locate the victim's body. They suspected that David had secretly moved it to cover his tracks. When the case went to trial, both Dennis and Cindy changed their testimonies and refused to cooperate. Cindy, still deeply attached to David, retracted her initial statements and claimed she had made them up. Despite refusing to testify, Dennis pleaded guilty to second-degree murder and was sentenced to 30 years in prison. In 2000, Cindy was convicted for her involvement in the kidnapping and torture of Cynthia Vigil and Angelica Montano. She was sentenced to 36 years in prison, but was released in 2019 through clemency. When Jessie Ray was about to stand trial for helping her father kidnap Kelly Garrett, David offered to plead guilty in exchange for Jessie being set free. In 2001, David was sentenced to 223 years in prison for multiple charges related to the kidnapping and brutal assault of 2 women. In May 2002, David confessed to the FBI that he had kidnapped around 60 victims, but he never admitted to committing murder. However, before authorities could conduct further interrogations, he suddenly suffered a heart attack and died. The case's closure was widely accepted by the public. Many believed that the punishment was well-deserved. The victims' families expressed sorrow, but found some comfort in knowing that justice had been served. This video has come to an end. If you found this story intriguing, don't forget to like, subscribe, and share so we can bring you more strange and emotional stories. Thank you for watching, and see you in the next video.